YouTubers, it's Nurse J at Nursing the Truth, and we have got a wonderful show for you today. I'm not going to keep you too long because I have a couple other videos I would like to make, but the other day I had made a video about Josephus and him saying that his forefathers were the Hyksos that invaded Egypt and subdued their country, and they became the pharaohs. Now, as I was doing some more research over the weekend, I tell you what, Josephus, the forked-tongued man, the Judean Roman historian, which I say is Gaius Calpurnius Piso, that was really a Roman. But anyway, his famous pen name was Josephus, and he had lots of other names. But anywho, the backdrop is when the temple was destroyed in 70 AD, Titus and Vespasian allowed Josephus to take all the books from the temple and or King Herod's place, and he wrote the stories. So, you get what you get, people. So, let's go and dive into really all the things that he talked about. So, this is in his Antiquities of the Jews. So this book, I do believe you need to have because it will open your eyes up a lot on historical value. It looks like this in the library. You see all the papers and stuff I have. It's ridiculous. Okay, so if we go to, in the back of the book, where it says Flavius Josephus against Apion, that was another historian, and he was writing against Apion. So, in 1.8, he had made a mention that we, therefore, who are Jews, must yield to the Grecian writers as to language and eloquence of composition. Well, I thought that he said that his forefathers were the Hyksos that were of Western Semitic, but now he's saying we of the Jews. So then it goes down and he says that they come from a great stock and a priestly line, and that they go from their wife's genealogy from the ancient tables, and many witnesses can see that, and that their practice was not only in Judea, but wheresoever anybody of men of our nation do live, and even there an exact catalog of our priests' marriages is kept. I mean at Egypt and at Babylon, or in any other place of the rest of the habitable earth, whithersoever our priests are scattered, for they sent to Jerusalem the ancient names of their parents in writing, as well as those of the remote ancestors, and signify who are the witnesses also. Well, let's see. If the temple was destroyed in 70 and all records were destroyed and most of the Jews were killed or dispersed, how would they know who was from what line? Because after all, you do forget. I mean, how far can you go back in your lineage today? Well, we have computers now, but back then, how far could you go? Great grandparents? Okay, let's go to 1.16. And it says, in the first place, that we came out of another country into Egypt, and that withal our deliverance out of it was so ancient in time as to have preceded the siege of Troy almost 1,000 years. But then, as to those things which Manetho adds, not from the Egyptian records, but as he confesses himself, for some stories of an uncertain original, I will disprove hereafter particularly the incredible fables. So there again, still saying, came from another country. Now, let's go to 112. I kind of missed a thing. I'm sorry, guys. Let's do to 112. Okay. He says, nor did our forefathers betake themselves, as did some others, to robbery, nor did they, in order to gain more wealth, fall into foreign wars, although our country contained many 10,000s of men of courage sufficient for that purpose. For this reason it was that the Phoenicians themselves came soon by trading and navigation to be known to the Grecians, and by their means the Egyptians became known to the Grecians also. So, I mean, if his forefathers were the Hyksos and they came in from a foreign nation and subdued the Egyptians, he's lying here, because that was a foreign war. And they did come in and steal the wealth. Forked little tongue that man is. Now let's go to 1.13. And it says, yes, I do confess that some of the Chaldeans, since our first leaders and ancestors were derived from them. And they do make mention of us Jews in their records, and on account of the kindred there is between us. Well, how can a Jew, this in Israel today, if that's what you want to call them, be from Chaldea, Babylon? I mean, that doesn't go. So there again, he's using the forked tongue again, saying that he's a Jew. Okay. .23. People, don't underestimate me about Josephus. And don't underestimate me about my Egyptian pantheon. Because I'll come at you, and you'll know it. So then he says, now the Egyptians were the first that cast reproaches on us, in order to please which nation some others undertook to pervert the truth, while they would neither own that our forefathers, now listen people real carefully, that our forefathers came into Egypt from another country. But a couple of pages ago he said he was a Jew from Chaldea. As the fact was, nor give a true account of our departure thence. And indeed, the Egyptians took many occasions to hate us and envy us in the first place. because our ancestors had had the dominion over their country. And when they were delivered from them and gone to their own country again, they lived there in prosperity. And in the next place, the difference of our religion from theirs hath occasioned great enmity between us. While our way of divine worship did as much exceed that which their laws appointed, as does the nature of God exceed that of brute beasts. 1.28. Okay, let's see. Now, Manetho had granted and confessed that this nation was not originally Egyptian, but that they had come from another country and subdued Egypt, and then went away again out of it. That's written on annals, and it's written in stone in Egypt. It's called the Hyksos expulsion. Go look it up. It's in your computer and in the Egyptian records. But that those Egyptians who were diseased in their bodies were not mingled with us afterward, and that Moses, who brought the people out, was not one of that company, but lived many generations earlier, I shall endeavor to demonstrate from Manetho's own accounts themselves. So, do we have more than one Moses? Okay, let's go to 1.32. Here he goes again. Our nation, therefore, according to Manetho, was not derived from Egypt, nor were any of the Egyptians mingled with us. For it is to be supposed that many of the leprous and distempered people were dead in the mind, since they had been there for a long time, and in such an ill condition. Many others must be dead in the battles so that happened afterward, and more still in the last battle and flight after it. Excuse me. Okay, so still again, people were not Egyptians. They came from another place. 2.2. Oh, hold on. Let's go to 1.35. I'm sorry. I have got the worst sniffles today. Okay. He also said, now this man did not discover and mention the same king with the others, but feigned a newer name, and passing by the dream and the Egyptian prophet, he brings him to Jupiter Hammon, in order to gain oracles about the scabby and leprous people. For he says that the multitude of Jews were gathered together at the temples. Now it is uncertain whether he ascribes this name to the lepers or to those that were subject to such diseases among the Jews only. For he describes them as a people of the Jews. What people does he mean? Now this is Josephus talking. What people does he mean? Talking about Manetho. Foreigners or those of that country? Talking about Egyptians. Why then dost thou call them Jews if they were Egyptians? So your ancient Egyptians were actually called the Jews. And we'll get on a video about that. But it's not the Jews you're thinking about in Israel today. This is a setup by the Zionists. Because I've read a book by Roger Saba talking about who the real Jews were and what happened. Okay, so let's go to let's see, book 2, I believe. Yeah. Let's go to book 2. This is where it's starting, the book 2. And it says, here it goes again. Now, although I cannot but think that I have already demonstrated, this is Josephus talking, and that abundantly more than was necessary, that our forefathers, not originally Egyptians, nor were thence expelled, either on account of bodily diseases or any other calamities of that sort. Yet will I briefly take notice of what Appian adds upon that subject. For in his 3rd book, which relates to the affairs of Egypt, he speaks thus: I have heard of the ancient men of Egypt that Moses was of Heliopolis, and that he thought himself obliged to follow the customs of his forefathers, and offered his prayers in the open air toward the city walls, but that he reduced them all to be directed toward the sun rising, which was agreeable to the situation of Heliopolis. 2.3. Okay, this is kind of funny too. It says, as far as the number of those that were expelled out of Egypt, he hath contrived to have the very same number with Amachus. This is another historian, I suppose. It says that they were 110,000. He then assigns a certain wonderful and plausible occasion for the name of Sabbath. For he says that when the Jews had traveled a 6-day journey, they had buboes, buboes, in their groins. And that on this account it was that they rested on the 7th day, as having got safely to that country which is now called Judea. That then they preserved the language of the Egyptians, and called that day the Sabbath. For that malady of buboes in their growing was named Sabbatosis by the Egyptians. And would not a man now laugh at his fellows trifling, or rather hate his imprudence in writing thus? We must, it seems, take it for granted that all these 110,000 men must have buboes. But for certain, if those men had been blind and lame, and had all sorts of distempers upon them, as Appian says they had, they could not have gone one single day's journey. But if they had been all able to travel over a large desert, and besides that, to fight and conquer those that opposed them, they had not at all had buboes in their growings. After the 6th day was over, for no such distemper comes naturally and of necessity upon those that travel, but still, when there are many 10,000s in a camp together, they constantly march a settled space in a day. Nor is it all probable that such a thing should happen by chance. This would be absurd to be supposed. However, are admirable Arthur Apion hath before told us that they came to Judea. Now listen to this. This is funny. I mean, you really got to understand in between the lines. They came to Judea in 6 days' time. And again, that Moses went up to a mountain that lay between Egypt and Arabia, which was called Sinai, and was concealed there for 40 days. And that when he came down from thence, he gave laws to the Jews. But then, how was it possible for them to tarry 40 days in a desert place where there was no water, and at the same time to pass all over the country between that and Judea in 6 days? Woo! What a liar. He goes back and forth. So if he's a Jew, you write as a Jew. If you're not a Jew, you don't write as one. As Paul says in the scriptures, I was a Jew to lure them, and I was a Gentile when I needed to be a Gentile. See how the slippery slope of the pen can catch you if you're not smart enough. If Josephus was a Jew and he abided by the laws of Moses, and he was behind his prophet, Moshe Rabbeinu, as the rabbis call him today, he would not make a sarcastic comment of his prophet. And he says, and as for this grammatical translation of the word Sabbath, it either contains an instance of his great imprudence or gross ignorance. For the word Sabo, S-A-B-B-O, and Sabbath are widely different from one another. For the word Sabbath in the Jewish languages denotes rest from all sorts of work, but the word Sabo, as he affirms, denotes among the Egyptians the malady of a bubo in the groin. He also says, why should we wonder at the lies he tells us about our forefathers when he affirms them to be of Egyptian origin, when he lies about himself? 2.15. We're almost done, but I think you would like this. This is some good stuff. At least I think it is. Because I love history. And I love to kind of hit you with it. Especially for the people that are screaming on the internet at night, which I had to put one woman in her place last night. She was like, oh, come Jesus, hurry up, rapture. I said, no. I cannot keep reading this. First of all, lady, if you believe in this Jesus, then he said in Luke, the kingdom of God is within you. No observation coming. If you're looking here, though, up and down, round and round, no kingdom is coming out the sky. Know your scriptures, people, because they're fucking with you, okay? I told her what books to read, where to find them, who the author's name is. Go look at BibleHub.com, put in the Greek, hit your number. It tells you what the word means. So if you're looking for a rapture, which is a false doctrine by the Catholic Church and the writers of Paul, which Tertullian said there's no evidence of a Paul. So it's a lot of Gnostic writings, a lot of Egyptian Gnosticism, which we all know that we are of divine, and we're all gods and goddesses, and we're here for an experience, and we are battling what you call these good and dark forces, negative and positive energies, right? Okay, so we got to get the fear factor going off. We got to let go of the fear. Okay? Let go of the fear. So she called me dumb. I had no brain. And one guy got on there and said, thank goodness, Nursing the Truth, you have some brains here. Thank you. I was very happy to see that. So she shut up real quick. Okay, she shut up real quick. So if you go look in Paul's writings, whoever wrote him, okay, pneumo means air. That means breathing in and out of the air out of your lungs. So if by chance you think that your little body, we're going to be sitting here and all of a sudden this shit starts coming down and we're going to be flying up in the air. We're going to see clouds busting up and Pegasus is going to come flying out. Sorry, get over the delusion. This is all a made up story and all made up crap to get you scared, to have mind control, to brainwash you. Okay? Only the strong survive, my friends. Only the strong survive. The mental is going to be better than physical, my friends. So, taken up in the air? Don't think so. Okay. And he says, but let us consider his first and greatest work. For when it was resolved on by our forefathers to leave Egypt and return to their own country, this Moses took the many 10,000s that were of people and saved them out of many desperate distresses and brought them home in safety. And certainly it was here necessary to travel over a country without water and full of sand to overcome their enemies, and during these battles to preserve their children, their wives, and their prey, on all which occasions he became an excellent general of an army and a most prudent counselor and one that took the truest care of them all. Sounds like another Moses. This is another man. Because in the first one he was saying, how in the hell can this Moses bring people out, travel in 6 days, come to Sinai, don't have water, blah, blah, blah. But then he's telling you here, when it was resolved on by our forefathers to leave Egypt and return to their own country, this Moses took the many thousands of people. Told you there was another Moses. And Josephus also said that they left on their own accord. Yes, my friends, there was no slavery. Josephus does not one time talk about slavery of the Jews or slavery of no one else in Egypt. And that he said his forefathers that came from the Chaldeans, from Babylon and that area, left on their own accord. And you see, dear friends, on the annals of the Hyksos expulsion, the army of Egypt was surrounding them, and they said they did not want to kill them. Just go and leave us alone. Take what thou willst and leave. And they did. and they left without one murdering man, woman, or child. And if you look in your scriptures, my dear lords and goddesses, it said that this Yahweh, you see how these little writers want to put their God above all other gods. Yahweh says to plunder the Egyptians and take their silver and gold and their silk. Read it. Plunder means to steal, my friends. Look it up. So how can this Yahweh in Exodus give you the 10 Commandments and says, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, and thou shalt not lie? But he tells the chosen to do his bidding. My friends, no such act, no such thing happened. The scribes wrote a pretty little story, and we are to live and die by the sword of this bullshit. But Nurse Jay's not. .41. He says it again, and I'm reading it out of the book. Moreover, they had said that we were sprung from the Egyptians, while I have proved that we have come from another country into Egypt, while they had told lies on us, as if we were expelled thence on account of diseases on our bodies. It has appeared, on the contrary, that we return to our country by our own choice, and with strong and sound bodies. He never said that his people that came from another country was enslaved by the Egyptians. In fact, Josephus says his people came to Egypt and took over and subdued it and became the pharaohs of Egypt. And that during the Hyksos expulsion, Amos, Kamos, and Tutmosis the first kicked their asses out, but did it diplomatically and did not kill. You see, truth seekers, the laws of Ma'at were already in place. No Moses needed to go to no mountain, because there was 100 and something negative confessions that the Egyptians lived by daily, and they were judged by Ma'at. So I hope this has been a eye-opener. I hope you go get his book from your library. You will be amazed at the lies. Oh, one more thing. The Catholic Encyclopedia also states that Josephus's Testimonium Flavium about Jesus has been severely interpolated. So, think about that. Eusebius, you dirty dog, you will be reincarnated again. And hopefully you'll get it right next time. So anyway, friends, when you are searching for the truth, and I hope Nurse Jay is bringing it to you, let the truth set you free, my friends. Come back and see me. Like, share, subscribe. Tell your friends about me. Hotep and Ashe, and Thal says he loves you.